What's up, guys? It's Mike with Nerdfellas, and we are back to talk about Shin Godzilla. It had a limited release from October 11th to the 13th. Jesus and myself went the very first day. And by the way, this is Jesus. Introduce yourself.
Hi. Thanks for thinking of me, Mike. No, my name's Jesus. I'm a longtime friend of Mike's, good friends, college friends. We used to do a lot of filmmaking back in school. That's where we met. You know, after we started doing Nerdfellas, I've always thought it was great. Wanted to be a part of it. But, you know, sometimes life gets in the way. It's hard to do things. But we started talking about watching Godzilla, and I'm a massive fan of Godzilla.
And I'm a massive fan.
So we were like, let's see the movie yesterday. He saw it by himself. I
went with the wife. He doesn't have a wife.
I saw it by myself.
So he went by himself. Well, let's just say we saw it together in spirit.
Yeah, we saw it together spiritually, and we decided he invited me to talk about it, so that's why I'm here.
That's why he's here. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. I would like to give him the honors of giving you a quick synopsis of what Shin Godzilla is.
Basically, this is the Japanese studio Toho's newest Godzilla film. And the last film they did was it 2004's
Final Wars,
right?
That was the last one.
So the last one they did was Final Wars in 2004, and this marks the longest period that Japan has gone without making an official Godzilla release, which is kind of mind-blowing if you think about it, because it's a Godzilla. I mean, Godzilla is a Japanese creation. It's theirs, right? So this is their sort of reboot, in a sense. It's titled Shin Godzilla. There was some confusion because the title, I believe, in some cases should have been Godzilla Resurgence.
The American title?
Yeah, for the American title. But what we wound up seeing was titled Shin Godzilla. Great. So this is Japan's sort of attempt, I guess, at rebooting their character in their way, the way they see it, and in a very Japanese fashion, which is kind of the way Godzilla should be.
Yeah.
I don't know, did you want to maybe just run over like a really quick plot synopsis?
Quick plot
That's
synopsis.
Like a history synopsis, I guess.
So I guess, well...
What's it about?
Shin Godzilla...
Without spoiling.
...is about the first, or it's basically a reboot. So take Shin Godzilla as a reboot of the popular franchise, which you can see the collection here. And it's basically the introduction or reintroduction of Godzilla. So the whole story starts off with an abandoned ship and a letter left by a professor. And it's pretty mysterious at first, and there's also a big leak, a pipe leak in the ocean. So what they're trying to do is the whole government's trying to clean it all up, trying to figure out what's going on. Suddenly there's cases of, oh, there's a monster. So this shows the emergence of what becomes Godzilla.
The creature, yeah. It's essentially a reboot in a sense.
Exactly.
So it's not. It doesn't pick up from any other prior Japanese Toho Godzilla films. This is Godzilla, true to form, like pure Godzilla, as pure of a Godzilla movie I think as you can get from the original 1954 picture.
Exactly, and it's kind of very nostalgic of the whole old 1954 picture because you get the whole sense of mass destruction and the power that Godzilla has and how people need to come together to face issues like Godzilla, and he's basically an allegory for today's issues, specifically concerning Japan and relations to the whole world. But yeah, so let's get first impressions. What did you initially think? But actually, before I get your first impression, I forgot to mention, the very first text I received from this guy here was, "The hell did I just watch?" That was right after he finished the movie. So let's get first impressions and what you thought of after some reflection.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, like, when I texted him that, like, what the hell did I just watch when I got out of there, like, that is really how I felt after I first saw it. Because it's a very true to form, like, it pays homage to the original film, in my opinion, a lot. But it's also really different. It's wildly different from any Godzilla film I've ever seen. And initially I came out kind of jarred, like, what the hell? Like, what did I just watch? Like, this is weird. But when I thought about it, mulled it over a little bit more, I actually really grew to love it and kind of appreciate it for what it was and what it was really trying to do. What about yours? What did you think about it when you first saw it?
You know, well, first of all, there were some assholes in the crowd.
Oh, dude, mine was the same. This was the noisiest theater I've ever been in.
Noisy.
And you know what? This is why, because I told Mike this when I went to see it yesterday. I went to a 7:30. I went to a 7:30 showing in the theater, only showing them the whole day. Right? We've been waiting there. There's a pretty packed crowd. Film starts rolling. title card comes up, it says like Spielberg, George Lucas. I thought it was kind of a joke. It looked kind of old, you know, from like a while back, and it just starts playing, keeps playing. It turns out, big flash, American Graffiti, and then so it turns out the theater screwed up, and because of that, they had to get the film back up there and start getting going again.
That sucks.
And that got the crowd. You know when the crowd gets like super comfortable and rowdy.
Where's the movie?
Yeah, where's the movie? Started. Should bring us a beer for this. There was this one guy that, oh my god, and it kind of continued throughout the rest of the night. So it's like, please, people, like, don't be comedians in a theater ever.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear your comments or your jokes,
especially if you like, if you're a nerd like us.
Oh yeah, I was
and
bad.
and there, we were trying to nerd out and enjoy this film, but there were other nerds. I'm not gonna lie, there were other nerds, not
Oh yeah.
that, but they're the ones that ruined it a little bit. They were just throwing out random comments like,
Yeah.
"Oh no,
it's
Godzilla," and I'm like, "Shut the fuck up! I'm
Yeah,
trying to watch a
it's
movie."
not funny. Like, it's just bad.
Yeah.
That's funny
But
that you had a similar experience to
it
me,
was
man.
pretty
Yeah,
bad.
the crowd was just rowdy and annoying.
But the movie started on time. We skipped trailers, and as soon
That
as it
being
started, it was awesome. But
How
we
did
went
your
straight.
impressions?
You know, so as soon as it started, I was in heaven because just seeing the old Toho symbol and the music that they brought back, all the old classic music I heard, dun 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 dun,
Yeah,
dun, dun,
that's cool.
everything. I was zoned in. Then as the movie progressed, I was the same way. The fuck is this?
Yeah.
What is this? And then even my wife came to me and said, you know, she's like, I've seen a couple of Godzilla films, but is this Godzilla? And I was like, it's supposed to be. Let's just be patient. So, you know, my first impression of it, even when I walked out, I was like, it was good, but it's very different. And
Yeah.
it's something I'm going to have to get used to if this is where Toho's going to take Godzilla. So that was my impression of it. Overall, though, I mean, I guess we can start getting into spoilers, what we really thought, and we can kind of break it down. Where would you like to start? This is, by all means, a brand new Godzilla. A very similar structured design. You have the spikes, you have his shape, but it doesn't start off that way. It starts off as pretty much just the tail of Godzilla.
Yeah.
So I mean, when we first see it, at first I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be Godzilla," because we already seen some of the pre-designs when they advertised Resurgence or Shin Godzilla, and I was like, "Oh man, he has like these like bulging red glows going through his skin, and he looks, you know, like Godzilla, same little arms, whatever." But I was excited. I wasn't excited about the googly eyes, but you know, I was excited to see
It's got
Godzilla.
very dead eyes.
Very
This
dead
Godzilla,
eyes.
this Godzilla's seen some shit.
Yeah, he's seen some shit. Then we see the first emergence of Godzilla, and
So that was actually kind of
Yeah.
cool, right? So, you know, this is a spoiler, right? For a lot of like monster movies, Godzilla movies, you usually like they kind of leave you waiting, and some of them make you wait like 45 minutes before you even get to see the monster. I think this film is guilty of that. You gotta wait a little bit of time, you know. This film kind of it does a similar thing to you. You get a monster pretty fast in the movie, like right away. There's this weird natural disaster or occurrence that's going on in Tokyo Bay. That's where it's happening. And there's this crazy thing that's going on. This water starts bubbling, and then right away you start seeing these dorsal spikes, and they look Godzilla-ish. And you're like, oh my god, we're gonna get to Godzilla within like the first 15 minutes.
yeah,
And then this monster comes out of the water and emerges on land, and it's not Godzilla.
not Godzilla. It's very weird. It almost seemed like it had fur. It has a long neck, no arms. It has a tail, and it's basically
It's got gills,
it has gills, and it's like spewing this
like blood.
blood or liquid, like it's trying to adapt to the air. So when we first see it, you get the impression of, is this a new monster? But then you start getting that unsettling feeling like, oh shit, this is Godzilla.
Yeah, because they introduced this creature, and I think that was really clever the way they did it. They pulled a fast one on the audience,
Yeah.
and it totally worked. I bought it. I was like, when the monster comes out, it doesn't look like Godzilla. It's like, oh, it's not him, and you're like, ah ha ha. This is the monster. Godzilla's gonna come and beat the crap out of him.
Which I was already mad about, because I was like, I don't want to see any other monsters. I want Godzilla by himself. That's just me. But
To
continue.
each his own, Mike.
But he
But
ends
that's
up,
what I thought, right? I'm
Yeah.
like, this is the other monster. That's what I figured. So I guess, you know, without going into too much detail, because we'll talk about it all night if we cover every beat of of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
But this monster turns out to be Godzilla.
Mm.
And it's this weird, like, sort of little, looks like a little, like, you know, embryonic creature, no arms. It's
Oh,
all,
giant
and it's
tadpole.
kind of small, like, compared to, like, you know, a normal Godzilla size, you know, skyscraper. He's relatively small. He can
Yeah.
kind of fit through streets, but he's really big, you know.
So he's tearing some shit up. I mean,
Yeah.
he within I think 3 hours he tore a brand new lane straight through Tokyo.
And there's a certain point in the film where he eventually he evolves.
Yes.
Right. Do you remember if there's something that happens that makes him do it, or he just starts doing it?
Well, there's nothing really triggers it, but he just suddenly
He was
stops.
very stressed.
And he was like he was trying to adapt or something. It was very weird. It was like he was gonna like throw up or something or
Yeah. It
And
was
he
like he was
stands up.
adapting to the environment.
yeah. And you see these vibrations just explode away from him, and he starts like emitting this weird.
Yeah, it starts. I think he actually leans on like a building or something,
Yeah, he's trying to hold himself up,
and
because-
he starts standing erect.
Yeah, and he grows legs.
And then his legs become like big, and then it's
Yeah.
like he grows into the Godzilla shape, right?
Exactly.
That's when it
He has the
happens.
Godzilla shape minus little T-Rex arms.
Yeah, his arms are like really. It's like a midway between like a Godzilla that you
Get
would
my
see
strong
here.
hand. That's how he looked.
Yeah, he's got like a midway between this and the
Mhm.
weird sort of primordial thing that it was before.
So
then
now
it
he's more
turns out,
recognizable.
yeah. So shocker, it's Godzilla.
And honestly, there was a point where the government's really trying to take him down, or they don't know what to do. They don't know if they should preserve him or kill him. And at this point, they probably could have killed him because he's barely developing.
That's a good
And
point, yeah.
they totally missed the opportunity because
Yeah.
they don't want to kill civilians, which that was a big mistake.
So yeah, that's a good jumping right off of that, right? So the film basically follows what I believe. I like to sum it up as just bureaucrats.
Yep.
There really isn't, in my opinion, a main character. There's this one guy. He goes by Yaguchi, I believe.
Actually, he's the main one. I
He's
guess
sort
you
of
could
the
say.
main. Yeah, he's the main. But there's no real. I don't believe there's really a character arc in this. There's another one,
No.
Kyoko. She's also a young, up and coming politician.
beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful actress. Never seen her before, but she was great. I mean, the acting was great.
There was some
Anyway,
bad acting. Don't get me wrong.
There was,
Those
yeah.
are very
But
bad
the
acting.
film is so the human element of this film centers around government bureaucracy and the way that Japan is trying to react to and counter the Godzilla event. And to me, it sort of feels very. It almost had this dark humor, black comedy tone to it.
Yeah.
Because they were kind of making fun of themselves.
Really?
You know, in the sense of, before like anybody could do anything, all this red tape had to be ran through. You know, had to cut all this tape to go through. It kind of, in a way, they were sort of poking fun at themselves and kind of showing how ineffectual their government system is, in a sense, of handling crises like this.
And even just the prime minister himself, how indecisive he was and how controlled he
Yeah.
was, and it
There's
was
an expert for everything.
Oh,
Everybody
yeah.
has to approve something. I mean, it's actually kind of funny and
Yeah.
it works on a lot of levels. But what's one of the major gripes that I had with it is it does too much of that, and it sacrifices like characters
big time.
and people that you would give a crap about. There's nobody really to care about.
Nope.
There's no families. There's no real threat of death.
And you can tell that they really tried to emphasize the elderly and the kids and the women. Like, oh, we gotta save them and get them out, and the people. There's over 6 million in
But they
just
don't-
one city
They
alone.
don't show it. Like
They don't really
yeah,
show.
They don't give you a reason to really care about what the Godzilla is doing to Tokyo, aside from just really stressing out a bunch of people in suits
Exactly.
walking through hallways.
And we didn't get moments like in the
throwing paper.
1954 when you have the mother holding her child
Yeah.
and praying, and that's when you really feel like,
Yeah.
oh my god.
That's
And we don't have moments like that. There's too many characters, and they try to introduce generals and the prime minister and all these different cabinet members. So no character development. And honestly, they were probably trying to deliver more of a Godzilla film, but they also sacrificed a little bit of that as well.
yeah, and I think in order to really, in my opinion, going off of like the greatest Godzilla films, even the Gareth Edwards one, which I loved it.
It's good.
And I thought it was great. And the Godzilla films really aren't about just Godzilla. I mean, there's a major human element to them.
Yeah.
They're about the way that the people, the scientists, or even the military or whatever, are struggling to sort of find a way to stop these monsters from fighting, or to get Godzilla away, or to defeat him. because Godzilla is wreaking real havoc. And when you compare this film to like the original film, which is the one that, in my opinion, it most closely resembles, it really falls flat because you don't get a sense at all of Godzilla's destroying. Like, what does it matter? It all just looks like a CGI
It didn't
city
matter.
that's just getting leveled by a big video game monster.
Yeah, that's
And-
exactly what
Yeah,
it was.
you know what I mean. And in this, like in this film, you know, you get more of a sense of the human suffering and element that Godzilla is really wreaking. That's why he's such a terrible creature. You know what I mean?
And you know, even Godzilla himself was very menacing this time around. He had a lot harder edge to his design, and he was very terrifying the way he looked and his progression as he evolved. And they even mentioned that he had several forms of evolution to go through. And they even said at one point that there could be an evolution stage where he could grow wings. Did you hear?
Oh
see that?
yeah, there was.
And
a
I was
weird-
like,
yeah, that.
what?
Yeah, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, so I mean, and honestly, the way you see Godzilla evolve, he's pretty much like the unatomic bomb. He starts off small, and he gets too much energy. He releases his energy, and he starts developing even more. And that's why they're trying to stop him. But yeah, the whole film was trying to touch Gojiro's, you know, nostalgic. They're trying to get nostalgic with it, but it didn't work. They tried to apply real life situations going on within the past decade, and tried to apply it in this film, like the tsunami and everything.
I feel like-
the current nuclear waste problem. But
Yeah, I feel
Uh-huh.
like there's a lot of like I said, with the whole black humor and like the way they really poked fun at themselves a lot in it. And I feel like there's a lot of I feel like there's a lot of this is a bit of a reaction to like the Fukushima disaster with the tsunami and everything, and kind of the way a lot of that was bungled. And I feel like this is sort of their way of, in a sense, highlighting where they fall short in
Big
those
time.
regards.
And it was even highlighted, especially when after the first, well, you know, we're in spoilers already. So the first prime minister dies, and when the second one is put into place, he's trying to eat his noodles, and
he's like
he
an
says,
agriculture minister or something. It's
yeah, and he tries eating his noodles, and he's like, "Oh, they're soggy. This job's harder than I thought."
Yeah, there's some great humor elements in it.
Yeah.
And that's totally cool. That's fine. You can do that stuff, but not at the expense of sacrificing story.
Exactly.
A real story. And I'm not saying there has to be a love interest or two two lovers
Which there
trying to
wasn't.
escape, which there even wasn't at all. They hinted at it slightly with Yaguchi and Kyoko that they're too young. They're about the same age.
They have the same aspirations.
Yeah, they're both up and comers and doing a good thing for their country and political careers, but that's it. There's no connection to them.
Nothing.
As a matter of fact, this is a really important thing that I want to talk about that disappointed me with this. Is there's little hints that they were trying to sort of make this movie mean more. Because there's a certain point where Yaguchi, I believe, and Kyoko are having a conversation walking along like the street on a bridge or something. And they start talking about, Kyoko starts talking about how she doesn't want to see Japan go through another atomic bomb.
You can show pictures from
there's
the
this
devastation.
Yeah, because at some point, right, the international forces think the best way to get rid of Godzilla is to nuke it. So they start having a real, this is an opportunity to have a real examination of, Japan and their attitudes towards this kind of stuff.
Where they've been, where they could go.
And they touch on it so briefly, and they even have a little short, montage or vignette of, post-war Japan images and pictures, and it lasts, maybe 30 seconds, and then it's done.
That's it.
And it rips you right back out of it. There was more that they could have done with that human element of disaster in the nuclear age and all that, but they ditch it. It almost feels like a deleted scene that got inserted in there, because they're like, we need to actually make these guys seem human.
Or we actually need to cut some stuff out, because it was already 2 hours long, so...
Yeah, it was long.
It was a long movie. I mean, I'm not going to lie, even my wife passed out for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, it was a long movie.
But I will say, there were some favorite moments in this film. So, aside from bashing character development...
Let's talk some specific stuff,
Okay, man. All-time favorite scene in this film, when he finally
When
releases... Oh, dick. No, when he finally he unleashes his atomic blast.
That was cool.
That was amazing because, okay, so Godzilla, everyone has arguments, oh, it's fire. No, it's an atomic beam.
It was never fire.
It was never
Ever.
fire. It was never.
Never was. Even in the original film, it was never fire.
No, it was fog.
It was, yeah, it was steam.
It was
technically.
steam.
We had a puppet and that was putting steam out. Yeah.
But in this movie, it's a combination of both. They finally said,
Yeah, that was
"Screw it."
super cool, actually.
Yeah,
how
he spit fire first, and you're like, oh, it's fire, and he just tore up and basically decimated a whole block through Tokyo. Then it turns into an atomic beam, and
Yeah.
then even a laser, and it went and cuts through all these freaking buildings.
sharks, freaking laser beams.
Dude.
Yeah, so
Oh.
now that we're on that, like, what was your opinion of this new Godzilla redesign and what he can do?
So let's discuss the redesign. He has, he has aspects of from Godzilla versus Destroyer, where he's melting down. So
Yeah,
he's kind of So he's kind of turning red, and it looks like he's like
Like these highlights.
yeah, and
they
he's
look
growing.
really cool.
It looks really awesome.
cool.
The whole evolution aspect of it kind of threw me off. Like even the part where he kind of freezes in place, and he's just like
Yeah, there's a lot that they don't explain,
Yeah.
but you know.
And the best way to explain it is he releases all this atomic energy. He shoots lasers out, freaking lasers out of his spikes.
beams.
Like there was one thing I was talking to our friend Carlos about, and he was gonna join us, but he's a little sick. But we were talking. Yeah, he's sick. But we were talking about how come Japan could not get through and hurt Godzilla, but when the U.S. came in, they did. Because they came through, they dropped these bombs in between Godzilla's spikes and all this
like
blood.
these weak points. I
Yeah.
guess.
So they kind of took him out almost in that sense, but he came back. The design of Godzilla, when he shoots his atomic blast, his bottom jaw opens up.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, why? But for some
It's
reason,
almost like snake-like.
yeah, and even his eyes, they turn metallic. So it's like,
shield. He's
Yeah.
got a lot of weird, like, he's got a lot. I actually thought, when I first saw it, I wasn't on board because I thought it looked a little too, like, garish and kind of monstrous. But in the movie, I actually really grew to like it. He's got a lot of really great elements, I feel, that originated in the original film. And then there's some
the wide hips.
yeah, like the super
Small
wide
arms.
legs and really tiny legs and a super long tail.
His tail was the longest I've ever seen.
Me too. I
No
think
homo.
this is the longest tail that I've ever seen a Godzilla character have.
Yeah.
But there's also some inspiration from some of, like you said, like the from Destroyer and all that, when he's got these kind of glowing elements. But I thought the character design was actually really cool, and he does some really interesting new things that you've never seen a Godzilla do before. For example, like Mike said, that when he does his radiation blast or whatnot, his mouth, it's almost like they drew inspiration from like snakes when they can expand their jaws, and it kind of opens up in this really cool way. And it's neat because it makes him look more animalistic. You know what I mean? It doesn't just look like a puppet opening its mouth with a laser. It looks more like a creature that's it's really putting effort into doing this thing.
Yeah, and it was almost as if he had built up so much energy he had to
It almost
release
seems painful to him
Yeah.
too. Like it hurts, and
It's
he's got to
good.
get this out. One where I'm gonna depart with you. I think we're gonna depart is I did not like the laser beams coming out of his back.
Okay, look, it was
so dumb.
It was cool, but it shouldn't have happened. In all
mean,
honesty,
It just looked hokey. Like in a sense, I kind of feel like, okay, I get where they're going, right? Because he's got all these, like, his back has all these like exposed kind of wounds or openings, and so what's happening is the energy is just releasing.
yeah. But he almost used it like a weapon.
But he used it like a weapon.
Yeah.
Like there's like drones and like bombs, and
But they
he's
even-
like hitting every single one of them, and it's just kind of corny. And I'm like,
Yeah, and there was a point though where they described.
oh, and he can shoot it from his tail too. Remember
Oh, that was the worst part.
yeah.
It's like
Shoot from his tail.
it's like he's vomiting and shooting shit out of his ass,
Yeah.
and then it's so much that it just tore a hole through his back, and now all his insides are falling.
Yeah.
It was pretty much like he was falling apart, but I think it was like a next step in his evolution, and if Toho continues, maybe they can kind of resolve these issues.
So-
but I don't know.
So one important thing, like that being said, right? What did you think about the actual like visuals of it? The computer graphics, the effects, the sound,
I
all
believe-
that technical stuff.
I believe the director was also involved with like Attack on Titan, right? So I had a lot of, when I saw Attack on Titan, I saw that same animation. And honestly, with Godzilla, the combination of using the suit and some animation was awesome. But when you went full animation, I wasn't too much with it. It was too choppy, looked too fake. I feel like the darker tones didn't really get into, like, I don't know, I felt like it was maybe rushed. I don't know what it
Yeah,
was.
I agree with you. That's the one thing. Well, I've actually complained about a lot of things, so that's another thing. I mean, yeah. It's another gripe is like I just visually there are certain scenes where it looks really great, like especially when he's off in the distance, right? And you see Godzilla off in like this big wide shot with like
beautiful.
with like like a midtown Tokyo with like some
And his
skyscrapers.
tail. It's in the trailer,
His
actually.
tail's moving. Yeah, you can
Ooh.
see these in the trailer, right? But there's certain moments when like if a close up or when you really got to see Godzilla up close that it just doesn't work.
Mhm.
It looks video gamey. I mean, you have
Yeah.
like tanks, Godzilla stuff, right? Tanks and artillery and rockets and jets and helicopters. Sometimes it looks good, but for the most part, I felt the visuals were a little underwhelming and they looked very video gamey.
Yeah, and I feel like if maybe they even got other companies involved that could really ante up on the effects, it could have been a great.
Yeah, and and I understand, Toho's, not at the same level financially and everything, as like a studio, like American-made films, but it's they gotta kind of ramp it up because, for example, the Gareth Edwards 2014 Godzilla picture, I thought looked freaking amazing. Visually looked great.
It looked really good.
Yeah.
There were a lot of dark moments in that one.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, it was all in the nighttime, which is
I honestly feel like I can gripe about this more than Shin Godzilla. But Shin Godzilla, with all the gripes I will have, I really liked his design. I liked I liked the jaw opening aspect of it. But I don't know, man. I mean, is there anything else good that you enjoyed about it? Do you have any good
Did
points?
you like anything
Did
about
you
it?
like anything? I mean, we're just...
No, yeah, I mean, I'm just talking specific stuff. I mean, the visuals weren't the worst thing in the world, but just, when you compare them to so many, like, modern, like, animated, CGI things and stuff that come out nowadays, it falls subpar. It falls below.
It does.
But, one thing I thought we talked about this earlier, the sound was really, really great. The use of music.
I think the music was a little too low for my taste.
Yes,
it was
did
the
you
theater.
feel that too? Yeah, man, the mix was really low.
The mix was bad.
Music.
The mix was bad, and I thought it was just the setup at the theater. But now that I know you went to the theater.
There are certain moments where they'll play like a track underneath. That's while something's going on. Like a guitar track, just some like music to stand in.
And the mix
the mix is so low, and it's noticeably low.
Mm-hmm.
But the sound in other areas was really great. Like they reuse one of the coolest spoiler things, I guess, is they reuse a lot of sounds, music,
almost
and
every single song
from the original picture.
Yeah, almost every song and effect from the original picture was there,
including the guy his like classic roar.
Yeah, and you actually hear that when he first comes out. Yeah. You're like, wow. They didn't end it with a roar, and it was funny because when we walked out, some Godzilla pictures end with his roar, and they didn't end it with a roar. So we're like, oh. So there was a point where they found Godzilla's weakness, and it started off very strong because they were demolishing buildings, and this was supposed to be the climactic ending for Godzilla. And they demolished buildings around him. They threw train bombs at him. The buildings were destroying Godzilla. They were falling all over him, and he was pinned down between maybe 3 different buildings. And then it turned into like a dentist appointment because they brought all these trailers with this nitrogen, and they were sticking it in his mouth.
I'll tell you what it is. It's a coagulant.
Yeah,
it's
coagulant.
A blood coagulant.
And they were just freezing all of his cells and everything inside. They were trying to diffuse him, and they stuck these things in, and it was. I could have shut it down and did a Mystery Science Theater like, okay, well, looks like you have a cavity today, and we're gonna have to go ahead and do a root canal.
Yeah.
And then Godzilla gets pissed like, fuck this, and
it happens like twice.
It happens twice.
It happens
twice. They bring him down. They do the thing. And then he demolishes them with his laser beam. Then he gets back up, they throw more bombs, he gets pinned down again, and they finally do it. And then he destroys them again, and then he stands up, and then he freezes.
Yeah, it works.
But he freezes just before his next evolution is what I noticed. And that was one of the final frames.
So. Yeah, so speaking of the ending, I thought it was probably one of the worst Godzilla endings I've ever seen. I didn't like it at all. I thought it was just bad. Just the lengths that they went to like get him, and then how do they get him? They knock him over by destroying even more buildings to knock him over, and then have trucks drive up to him with like cranes with pipes that are attached to like this coagulant to cool him down. You gotta see it to understand it.
Yeah.
Basically, they're injecting something in him, and you know what I didn't like? A little thing when those things are into his mouth, and they're supposed to be there's nothing coming out of him. Did you notice
No,
that?
nothing.
There's no effect of
You
like
just-
fluid. They're just like sticks in his mouth.
Yeah, it's like they're putting straws in his mouth.
It's like there's straws, but there's
Take
nothing
a
coming. There's no fluid or liquid or whatever it is that's coming out of it. I
Yeah.
did not like the ending. I thought it was
the ending
very
wasn't like.
poorly done.
Yeah, it wasn't really almost like a. It wasn't a Toho ending because there's no Godzilla riding off in the sunset. There's no final resolution. There's no powerful music. It was very silent, and then it just cuts to the credits, and you're like, okay, that's it. But one frame that was very interesting was they finally come onto Godzilla as the last frame. They're showing his frozen self, and the camera's panning in on him, and kind of like explores his spikes, and then it moves up to his tail. And then when it gets up to the top of his tail, you see his tail was open.
Yeah, his tail's like the tip of his tail.
Yeah, so something that my wife noticed, and I kind of like, oh, no way, was that when his tail was opening up, it almost looked like there were eggs. And it looked like the eggs had little Godzillas coming
Yeah,
out.
they looked like almost like humanoid. They were like heads with
Yeah.
like bodies. Yeah. Like
So-
kind of like coming out of it in a weird sense.
Mhm. And it could have been like a testament or like a monument even to I guess the people that have been, you know, killed or destroyed by their own nation. It could have gone into a deeper hole.
You know
other
what's
level.
funny? When I first saw that, you know what I really thought it was? I thought that they were people that he had smashed with his tail that got stuck to the tip of his tail. I thought that. I was like,
no, when it
that's
ended,
an odd thing to focus on at
Why
the end,
would
like
you
all
do
these
that?
like crushed bodies. at the
they're just
tip of his
hanging on it.
That's really what I thought.
Originally,
But I guess
before-
that's really not what it is.
I mean, before Liz said anything, I was thinking, you know what? It looks like his tail was opening up and he was going to shoot another laser out. But then I even thought, well, maybe it was unraveling to his next transformation.
Yeah.
But then it looked like maybe he was giving birth to some other baby Godzillas.
Yeah, it looks like there's definitely something coming out of him or off of him for some reason, and it's originating at his tail, the tip of his tail. So I guess that's their major, like, you know, little tag at the end, like, this is obviously not over. Because, like Mike said, he doesn't end in, like, he doesn't end, like, in a classic way where he just slowly goes back into the ocean. He's still on land in Tokyo, just frozen
There.
in place like a statue.
And they even mentioned that we're going to have to learn to coexist with Godzilla because they can't destroy him. And it's basically saying, like, in real life, we have to live with the fact that there's nuclear weapons out there. And we can't really just destroy them anymore. They're built. And this Godzilla was created, he was made and built, and there's no way to get rid of him. So we have to coexist with it and just deal with it. And the next time he comes around, it could be the end of the world, or maybe we can stop him again. So, I mean, it was almost like, I don't know, it was just like an allegory for what's going on. So, overall,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, let's talk about ratings. I like rating out of 5. What would you give this movie out of 5 stars?
I would give this film 3 Godzukis out of 5.
3.
I'd give it like a 3. Like, yeah, if I had to give it a rating, I'd say it's a solid 3 out of 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like to do halves. So I'll do 3.5.
3 1/4.
3. I don't do quarters, bro. I only do halves. It's either a whole or a half. But yeah, because me, Martin, and Keith have discussions on. Oh, let's do 10 stars. I'm like, no, it's too complicated. Even you know, IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes are planning on going down to 5. But anyway, so
Was this movie rotten or fresh?
it was fresh.
It was so fresh.
It was so fresh, man. My breath was disgusting. But so it was a good new take on Godzilla. I'm not too thrilled that they overcomplicated Godzilla. I think overcomplicated characters, overcomplicated himself. I love having a classic basic monster that doesn't have so much random raw power. I like the fact that he could destroy
He's
things.
slow too.
He was slow and he can just shoot a beam, and that's all I needed. But they went further, and you know what? Even if they had just kept fire, beam, opening jaw, I would have been cool with. I would have been like, okay, I can live with the opening jaw thing. I can do the Guillermo del Toro vampire thing, like they did in Blade 2. Whatever, you can do that. But then they went a little bit too far. But other than that,
So what do you think about, like, obviously they hinted that there's going to be more. I feel like they didn't end it. They don't end it on, like, the end. What do you feel about the direction that they're possibly taking Godzilla?
you know, it could act as a standalone, but
They could.
yeah, you know, if Godzilla was created, I think they could take it in a direction where now they can introduce other monsters that were also created. It's possible. I feel like if they want to stick into like realism, real world, and start a whole new era, I mean, they could just stick with Godzilla, but it could get boring after a while if it's just Godzilla. You know?
Yeah, I don't think it'll just stay. I think
No.
that's a very hard thing.
They
It's
can't do it.
They did it for this one because I think it's a good spiritual reboot of the monster. But now, you know,
It's time to introduce
Godzilla has
the rest of
really,
them.
and if you really think about it, I mean, Godzilla's never really existed in a vacuum.
No.
Like, he hasn't. There's always kind of been the other monsters, and
Yeah.
that's a part of it.
We need Rodan, we need Mothra, we need Anguirus, we need all of them. We need
So-
King Ghidorah, you know. So I think that's gonna happen next.
Yeah, I think that's the direction that they're. I hope that that's the direction they're going in.
Maybe we even get Weapon X. That'd be awesome. Weapon X from
What
1985.
I'd love to see is reimagined Mechagodzilla.
Oh, that'd be the best.
Killer.
That would be the
That'd
next
be so
best
cool.
sequel. You know?
Imagine, like,
Yeah, because they're like, you know what? He's frozen, and they estimated
like,
3
taking-
years.
Taking him to the dentist didn't work. What should we do? Build a big fucking robot to fight him.
Fight him. That's fucking, and
Call
then
Guillermo del Toro.
let's get fucking Pacific
Gonna
Rim
get
2
a-
going.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. This is Pacific Rim 2. Oh my god.
So yeah,
Yeah, so my opinion is, I think it was great. Like, there's a lot that really worked in it. I just really hope that going into the future, they tone down all the talking and all the non-important character stuff.
give us important characters.
Yeah, give us characters that matter, that we can care about and relate with and want to see succeed. Characters that we don't want to see die, you know.
Yeah.
Or even if it's the city, like, give us a real human aspect to relate to. And it can't just be bureaucrats in offices.
We obviously don't care for politicians, so
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Like, most of the characters are all politicians, and I mean, you know, it's just, there's no arc to them. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And I hope that they really change that, because I think that's one element, in my opinion, where the Legendary Pictures one did a little bit better of a better job. You know, with even like Bryan Cranston,
His
you know,
relationship
as a father,
with
with his son and all that.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not saying it was the most beautiful Gone with the Wind type story, but you got to give audience members a reason to care about what's happening aside from just destruction.
Especially if you're not giving us enough destruction. So it's I think you can
that's true,
sacrifice
right?
one. You can give us more character
You either got to
development.
go full this way, or you got to give us a story to care about, with
Exactly.
characters to care about. And these characters that they introduced are fine. I like them. I want to see more of them, but I hope they actually get arcs that we
Yes.
care about.
Yes, let's
It's a
cut
good
out some of them. Let's keep some of the good ones. So, I'm excited for the new direction Toho's going with. I'm glad that they're rebooting Godzilla and kind of competing with Legendary Pictures, and I'm excited to see future films, man.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
it's cool, man. Like, it's great to see Godzilla movies, you know, coming out, you know, in the modern era. For me now as an adult, you know, growing up, I watched the Godzilla films as a kid, and I mean, most of them were much older than me when I was born. And yeah, there were some that came out when I was around as well. But it's cool. It's always cool. It's cool to be a part of a sort of a rebooted Godzilla generation.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that it's not just coming from Japan anymore, which is really cool. You have the Japanese reboot now with Toho making this film, and we also have the parallel universe American Legendary Pictures ones.
Especially with him fighting King Kong coming soon.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's really cool. I mean, it's a great time to, like, actually be able to see the development of this classic, iconic movie monster.
It's a great time to be alive.
It's a great time to be an American. It's great to see this from both aspects, and we get to taste, like, you know, you like the Japanese style, you like the American style, and it's cool to see the differences and where they mix and match and stuff. I'm pretty excited for new movies, definitely.
Well, that's our take on it. Tell us what you think. You can comment below. You can also follow.
Make a new
Jesus.
Gamera!
Make a Gamera versus Godzilla. For
Yeah,
the love of God,
how
I'm
about that? I don't want another Godzilla. When are they going to make another Gamera?
Seriously, Guardians of
What is he
Guardian
like?
of the Universe was
Guardian
awesome.
of the Universe and friend to all children.
Yes, he is. So, on that note, we leave you here from Nerdfellas. Make sure you follow Jesus. Make sure you follow me. Make sure you follow Nerdfellas in general. We hope to have you again soon.
Yeah,
Talk
man.
about some more stuff. It
Great.
was fun.
I want to
So-
do more, so.
Yeah, let's do it. And Martin told me that the best sign out right now is to say something that I'm going to say right now. Nerd out.
Was I supposed to say it?
You want to do it together?
No.
Awesome steelbook, and it's kind of embossed there down the middle. So you can see half of Captain America's shield and half of Iron Man's mask or helmet, so that looks pretty awesome. On the back, just a little description of the film and some, typical cover art that you would see on your typical regular DVD Blu-ray. Now I'm gonna open it. It's really glued on there. Okay, there we go.